bust your life up, cause I did.
What's going on, people? We'd like to welcome y'all to episode number 3. It's the BYLU Campaign Podcast, and you're here with your boy, it's your boy Dan.
And your other host, Nate Perro. What it do?
Yeah. So this one we about to touch base on, a very different subject matter. And this article is the most recent one that was released. Came out July 22nd. And it's entitled, "The Bag Ladies A-Alike."
So how'd you come up with that title, Danny?
Alright. So first off, I think the main thing is really like defining what an A-alike is. And basically an A-alike is like, it's just similarities. It's like what's the word I'm looking for?
The equivalent.
Yeah, equivalent or synonym or whatever. So Bag Lady, that's the Erykah Badu song that hopefully you guys are familiar with, because if you're not, I don't know what you're doing. But yeah, that's like one of my favorite songs from her, because the subject matter is very real. She speaks on, basically it's a story of a lady who is being held back in life by her own doing, because she refuses to, deal with her issues and stuff. And she's carrying that along with her, and basically that's slowing her down. So the Bag Ladies A-like is going to be the man's version of that, in the sense that we have issues that we refuse to deal with and things of that sort. And, we don't want to address, and how that is slowing us down in our journey of life. So yeah, that's how that came about.
Word, man. That's deep, man. Because I was searching for some titles, and I couldn't really come up with anything. So, yeah. Kudos to Danny for coming up with that.
Okay. Thank you. That was different. All right. So let's let's dive into it.
Okay.
What I want to do actually is I think I want to read this first paragraph. It doesn't really give you that much context on what we're about to speak on, but it kind of gets you prepared. So the first paragraph of this article says, starts off with a quote actually, and the quote says, "Every great change starts with pain." And paragraph goes, "When I embarked on my writing journey last February, my perspective of the content I was capable of writing and willing to produce was limited. I knew that I wanted to be personal, but only to an extent. Sharing my financial struggles in the Art of Savings article, though honest, was still very much so within my comfort zone. However, over the past few months, my disposition has transformed as a result of these 2 comments."
Yeah. And I guess you could also read the two comments. Yeah.
All right. So the first comment, I'm not going to go into like the actual breakdown of it. We'll discuss that part. But I'll tell you guys what the 2 comments are. So the first one is, "I believe that if you want to help people, actually help them by telling the truth." And that's by Eric Thomas. And the second comment is, it's the artist's job to provide a space for people to have real conversations. And that's by J. Cole. So those 2 comments, what about those 2 comments struck a nerve with you? Let's start with the first one.
So I guess before I get into that, I'll kind of speak on how this article really came about.
Okay.
So if you guys are familiar with the BYLU campaign, most of the articles that I write, they usually are a result of something I'm going through in that present moment. And then I write an article, or I write an article out of a moment of clarity.
All right.
So this is more so lending to a moment of clarity for something that I had experienced over the past, let's say, 7 months that I've been going through. And in that moment of clarity, I was somewhat conflicted about, was I going to write this article, kind of how I touched on in the first paragraph. Like, I was so used to writing about a specific subject matter and very comfortable about, okay, this is what I'm facing in life and writing about it. But for this specific topic, it was so different that I was like, I'm not sure if I really want to write about it. I'm not really comfortable going into that space. But it was really just weighing heavy on my heart. And like, I jog in the morning, and like the thoughts of the article kept running through my head.
Oh man.
They kept running through my head, and I couldn't get it out.
couldn't run from it.
Literally, right? Literally. Uh, and finally, I was like, okay, I'm gonna write it. And this article, to be honest, I wrote it probably faster than any other article I've written.
Mm-hmm.
Like the majority of it really came about in like 2 or 3 days, and then over the next like 2 or 3 weeks, it was more so like fine tuning it and organizing it. So yeah, I mean, I guess that just speaks to, when you have something on your heart to write about, you just gotta put it out there.
And does that transcend to other things too, not just writing?
Yeah.
Just when something on your heart that's weighing heavy, just address it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. So with this one, right? Because this article, there's no way that I could sit here and go through and read the entire thing. Because it's like one of those things that you have to read. Like, if you haven't read an article yet, I would recommend for all y'all to go and read this one. Because the amount of honesty that's there and vulnerability is crazy. You feel me? And so today's subject matter, just to sum it all up, is we're going to touch base on an issue that most men face. And that's, vulnerability, and also expresses how we deal with pain, how we deal with pain, from how we're raised to what we learn and what we teach ourselves, our methods of dealing with pain. So let's double back into that quote. I believe that if you want to help people, actually help them by telling the truth, right?
Yeah.
What about this article did you correlate to the quote?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is my truth, right? And if with BYLU, like I'm saying that I'm telling my truth, I had to share this part of my truth. Like I can't just share part of it and not, because then that's not being truthful and that's not being honest with the readers and the people who expect my content to, or our content to be honest and transparent about the things that we're going through. I can't just, like literally I had 2 other articles pretty much done that were supposed to come out in July. And then it just got to a point like I couldn't continue writing them because I just felt like this was my truth and this is something I had to share with the community.
Okay. So I do see here that you mentioned that, because we always speak on the 5 pillars, and for those who will just assume are new, everyone that's listening could be new. The 5 pillars are financial, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical health. Those are the 5 pillars that we use to measure our lives. And we have our personal belief and a belief in the community that once you're able to hit your peak in all 5, or you're simultaneously flourishing in all 5, you've officially bossed your life up. Because, like, that's what it's about, to be able to win in different areas. Like, you don't want to be the person who's winning financially, but your home life sucks. Or you're winning physically, but your financial aspect sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to keep that balance and transcend that through different areas of your life.
Correct.
So with this, you mentioned something that, even starts off from a vulnerable place when you stated like, hey, I measured myself against the pillars and I was lacking. Like, how did you feel once you sat down and, you came to that conclusion? Like, wow, I suck in this part of, the 5 pillars. Like,
it was tough. And especially like as we were the ones who came up with these pillars, right? So to admit that I'm not upholding one of them is it's hard to admit, but it was something that I had to face and accept in order to grow and be able to build that pillar to where the other ones were.
Yeah, definitely. I experienced the same thing too. Also, when I measure myself against them, and it's certain pillars that, even speaking right now, that I know have a lot of room for growth. You feel me? And sometimes it kind of discourages me, if I'm being honest, because it's like, damn, how am I gonna tell somebody else to do this? And I'm still trying to figure it out. You feel me?
For sure.
But I feel like that's where the truth of it comes to be, because there's opportunity in having to figure it out, because once you figure it out, you can share that,
Exactly.
Like, hey, this is how I did it. It might not work for you, but it just gives you insight to a way to attempt it. So that's pretty neat. That's neat. All right, so you've evaluated yourself. You've come to find out that you're not good at, that one aspect of the 5, right?
Yeah.
So we could transform that and actually get to speaking about what that led to. Like, so you've said, like, I'm not good at this. So what's the next step? What was it?
It was really kind of peeling back my life. Like, in the article, I mentioned how I kind of wrote out my entire life story from like age 5 until present day.
5?
Or 5, as long as I can remember.
Wow, till you're 20, that's a lot.
Yeah, just each age pretty much going through, what's my home life like, what's school like, what girl that I have a crush on, like, who are my friends, all those, what sports was I playing, just trying to get context on and tap into that age, and then kind of see if there's, basically what I was searching to see if there was any patterns that I had throughout my life that I didn't notice because I was kind of living like life wasn't connected.
Yeah.
And then when I pretty much went through that, I'm like, damn, like, like I have repeated some of the same behavior since I was like 5.
That's crazy.
Just in different ways and with different people. But I never realized it till I actually went through that entire experience. And still, like, even to this day, like, I still find new connections, or I still find out things I do now that were a result of unaddressed, let's say, trauma from my past.
Okay. That sounds like a very extensive process. Like, to sit down with yourself and say, we're going to review ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
We're going to do a YouTube review on our own life. Like,
Yeah.
That's because, you're forced to face certain things that you really do not want to.
Yeah.
Like, with every one of us, well, I'm going to just speak for myself. I'm not going to assume. But I'll say with me, I know it's certain things that I intentionally suppress. It's certain things I'm willingly blind to,
For sure.
It's not because I'm not smart or, you feel me, like, I don't have the ability to address them. But it's just like, if I don't have to, why would I? You feel me?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what a lot of people, like, with a lot of things that we should address, we put on the back burner because it's not really messing up nothing on Front Street because we don't see it. You feel me?
Yeah.
That's something. That's something, man.
Nah, and it's real, but I think one thing I'm coming to the understanding is now is like life is connected, right?
Yes,
and
it is.
I won't be able to be, I'm in business, right? I won't be able to be a successful business person if emotionally, like, I'm terrible. Like,
yeah, definitely.
like a huge aspect of business is emotional intelligence. And like, if I don't understand my own emotions and I can't manage and deal with my own emotions, then how do I expect to lead or be a leader of a business or an organization?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of the things I was like, okay, like, Nathan, this is not only affecting your personal life with people, but this is ultimately going to affect you in your career. So yeah. That was tough to accept. But I mean, making that connection also made me want to make some changes because, I was so gung-ho on doing well financially and career-wise that realizing that it would affect my career was like, okay, all right, you got to make a change.
Yeah. So that was a big step. That's really important. I like that you know what I'm saying, you mentioned that the fact that life is connected, like everything that you do, it goes on to different parts of your life. Like, it literally does. It's just like the person who goes to work from 9 to 5. They're spending 1/3 of their day at a place that they hate. Come home, you're mad at your spouse. you know what I'm saying, you're kirking on your kids. Kirking means like you're like angry. Kirking on your kids. Like, you know, and if the person was to sit down with themselves, sometimes they'll be like, why am I doing this? You know, like they really don't understand why, but they're bringing their work home. You feel me?
Yeah.
And just vice versa. Like someone might see you on the street and might do something to you or a form of disrespect or something. And it might not even be nothing that you did. They just had a bad day or they just like got some bad news from a phone call. You feel me? Like life is really connected. Like we're all really connected. We're connected.
For sure.
So I see here, right, the quote from Inky Johnson. Mm-hmm. And it says, the ability to learn is a gift, even when pain is your teacher. So from this, I can see that pain was your teacher because you say that you had to go through a certain loss.
Yeah.
A loss was what fueled you to begin this process. Am I correct?
For sure.
For sure. Okay. And do you, just thinking back, right, do you wish you could have changed anything? Not in terms of what led to your loss, but do you wish there was like another reason why you changed? Do you wish you would have changed on your own, or do you feel like there was no way it was going to happen if you didn't take such a loss?
There's no way. And this actually is a good thing you brought that up. I want to say this quote, right? Mm-hmm. It says, the reason people change is because of pain. The reason we grow is because we get uncomfortable and we embrace being uncomfortable. But being honest with the pain that we feel is a prime mover for people to do the work that is necessary. And kind of speaking off that quote, mm-hmm. sometimes pain is the only way to change.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. A lot of some people say that, like, you know, if you really care about people, you have to allow them to experience pain because that's the only way they're going to grow and really understand the depth of the circumstance or just life in general. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, despite pain being my teacher, it was something that I had to go through. And, yeah, so I wouldn't say that I would have wished could change on my own because I tried. I mean,
it's hard.
I tried, but it wasn't real attempts, though. It was like, yeah, I'm trying, but I wasn't really trying. Like,
I know what you mean. Like, give me some credit.
it was
give me some credit.
Yeah,
trying.
it was one of those,
like full blown.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about pain, though, because like, you know, I do agree. Like, sometimes you need to feel the hurt. Like, you need to feel the hurt. That's really what motivates you. It's unfortunate because we hear all these quotes about you can learn from other people's experiences, or you know, just watch the people around you and you won't do the same thing. And you literally, like, if we all sat down and thought to ourselves, like, how many times have I made a mistake that I seen someone else like make, but I didn't avoid it? You know, like you saw the person do that, like, damn, they did that. That was the outcome. I don't want to do that. And then next thing you know, you're in the same position. Like, wow, look at me, you know?
For sure.
Like, that happens multiple times throughout this life. But yeah, so with the pain that was felt and the laws that came about to be, let's speak on, now we could get a little bit more general on like how as men, especially being black men, how we deal with pain, right? So like in our community, you even said it here in the article, but in our community, pain isn't, you know what, help me out. I need some words.
I mean, I think it's more so like, pain, but also just dealing with emotions more so. Like
dealing with hurt. Emotions as
emotions in general. Like, as men, we're taught to, you know,
suppress.
I mean, suppress. I don't think people would necessarily teach you like suppress your emotions, but they don't realize by saying like, oh, you know, get over it or just keep it moving. Like those
are you being a girl.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like stop crying or this or that. Like that in a way is telling you to just suppress your emotions and just keep it moving. Mm-hmm. And just like also in our community, you know, if people know what will hurt you and what would affect you,
Yeah.
people are going to use that to your advantage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, all right, if I know making fun of you because you have no Jordans is going to hurt your feelings, I'm going to make fun of you because you don't have no Jordans, right?
Yeah. That's crazy.
But if someone else is in a situation where, like, I don't care, I don't got Jordans, and you know it doesn't bother them, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not fun anymore. So throughout our entire life, we've been taught, okay, don't show how you feel. Like, kind of have a poker face. Yeah. Somewhat of a stoic.
You gotta ignore what you feel.
Exactly.
To the point where it's like you don't feel no more.
Exactly.
That's the crazy part. It gets to a certain point where with other people they get to ask, like, do you feel, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have no emotions. Like, how many times have you heard that? I've heard that before, like, wow, you have no emotions. And I'm like,
sure.
I mean, in my head, I'm like, I think I do. It got to a point where I was like, maybe I don't, but I think I do, you know what I'm saying? Like, because nothing was showing.
Yeah.
Nothing was showing.
And I'll say it's not that we don't have emotions, it's more so that we don't necessarily know how to express them. Like, sometimes, like, I'll be happy, like, someone will do something that will make me happy, right? And I'll just have, like, a chill face.
Yeah, because you don't want to be too happy.
Yeah,
I know exactly
or
what you mean, man.
Happy, whether it's happy, mad, or sad. Like, I wouldn't overly express how I'm feeling. So people are like, oh, you have no emotions, but it's in my mind, like, I know how I feel about this, but I don't know how to express that through my physical being. Or even articulate it to someone that, yeah, I do appreciate that, or I am happy about that, or that did make me mad. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's the truth, though. Because, like, even there was a TED Talk that I watched recently. There was a Mel Robbins TED Talk. I watched it a few years ago. I never watched it again recently. A couple months, I sent it to you. And you know how it was something interesting that she said, where she said that a lot of issues with vulnerability start with the statement, I'm fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, instead of saying, like, how we really feel or what's really on our mind, we just, like, you know, we going to keep it pimping. We going to keep it cool. Because you could unfind your way through anything. Like, somebody could piss you off. You're like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Instead of being like, hey, you just blew me. You could just and just, like, you know, express how you really feel. You could say I'm fine, ignore that, and just keep it moving, you know? Yeah. And it's like, that, you know what I'm saying? It's like multiple ways that we train ourselves to deal with not dealing with our emotions. You feel me? Like, we come up with more ways to suppress or act like they're not there, instead of coming up with more ways to properly and effectively handle them. And, you know, that's sad. That's the sad, like, truth of things.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I'm fine. It also shows that we really don't listen to people, because you can, if you're actually paying attention, when someone says I'm fine, right? And if you're actually paying attention to their demeanor, how they said it, how they're moving, you'll be able to say, okay, nah, this person's not fine, right? But in most situations,
I disagree.
When someone says you're fine, right?
No, I disagree.
All right, hold on. Let me finish.
Yeah, I'm going to let you finish, but I'm just saying, I disagree.
Sometimes when I say I'm fine, right? Sometimes a person will be like, all right, cool, and just keep it moving. And they won't dig into, like, no, you're not fine. Like, why do you say you're fine? You know what I mean? Like, why are you fine? Like, they won't ask. I guess because we know people won't ask those follow-up questions.
Yeah, that's why we use it.
Yeah. So what was your...
my rebuttal?
Yeah.
I mean, my rebuttal was you were saying that, because I thought you were just going to leave it right there. Like, people need to dig deeper than the statement, I'm fine. And I was just about to let you know, like, you're not about to dig through this workhorse right here. Like, if I tell somebody I'm fine, due to, you know, my inability to be vulnerable with people. So if it's somebody who I don't feel emotionally safe with, if I tell you I'm fine, that's all you're getting. Like, you could do all the digging you want. I'm going to counter every punch. Like, we're going to be going blow for blow. Like, you feel me? That's what I was saying. Like, sometimes with certain people, we know they're not fine, just like off of being able to be human, and you can just see it on the person's face. Like, I know that person's not good, but because you could tell like they're not about to let you in, you just give up.
That's
like
true.
It's like, what am I gonna do? Like, strangle you? You're not, like, tell me what's wrong. Like, you can't do that, you know.
No, that's real. I agree.
But yeah, man. So this article called for you to be very vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Would you say this was the most vulnerable you've been thus far?
Hands down.
Hands down. And so approaching vulnerability, you had to make that agreement with yourself. Like, you know what? I understand this is a very vulnerable piece for me, right? And, you know, with our culture, how we're raised and the things we grew up around, people who are vulnerable, we looked at as suckers. Like,
For sure.
You feel me? If we saw a man that was overly expressing himself, like, baby, I love you. You're like, oh, you weak. You feel me? Like, we tied vulnerability to being weak instead of, like, what we've grown to learn over, you know what I'm saying, recent years that, you know, it's strength and vulnerability. Like, people who can express themselves and things, they're stronger. Like, I remember, right? This is kind of off topic, but it was this girl one time, like a couple of years ago, right? And she had a boyfriend, and she was cool with me or whatever, but she just liked my stilo, and so she so we was like talking one day, like we just friends, or we just talking, and she made a comment. She was like, "Man, Danny, I like how you move. My boyfriend cries too much. He's always complaining and talking about how he feels." And I was like, honestly, you wouldn't want him to be like me. And she was like, why? I was like, cause you'll never really know what's on my mind. You feel me? Okay. Like, you're better off with a dude that's telling you like how he feels about things and stuff. Yeah. Than with me, where like if I feel the type of way, I'm gonna ghost you. You're not gonna know what's going on. Like, you gonna think Danny died. You feel me? So it's like, yeah, just little things like that. I don't know what that had to do with anything,
but no,
I just
funny.
thought it was honest, like that. Even when we were younger, you feel me? That even sometimes some people still don't see it, like that it's okay to be vulnerable. Yeah. Maybe I think the only thing is just the method of how we learn to express ourselves, because it's like I feel there's always an effective and a proper way to do it. So that's what we struggle with after we're like, okay, I want to let people in. Then it's like, damn, how do I do it? I've never done it before. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so back to you. What I'm saying is with being vulnerable, how did you tell yourself, like, I'm going to be vulnerable? I've never done this before, because as you said, it was your first time being so open. Yeah. How did you, like, make that agreement with yourself? Like, I'm going to do it and do it to its full extent. Like, I'm not going to hold back.
Honestly, like, those 2 or 3 days that I was writing, I just wrote, like, not trying to hold back what I was feeling or what I wanted to say. And yeah, and then also like sharing it with you and my sister when she finally read it, like when she said, okay, this is good. Like when she, so literally like she was the last person to read it before I put it out. And she was just like, wow. And then that moment I was like, okay, all right. I was fully transparent with everything that I was going through. And even you, because like, you know, we have these conversations. Yeah. I know you would tell me like, yo, Nate, you didn't dig deep enough. Yeah.
I remember I was like, hey, you're holding back.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess just having those people who will push you to stretch yourself even when you're not ready to.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like with those comments when I told you that you weren't digging deep enough, is because like since we kind of had experienced like the same thing and chose to deal with it in the same way, I felt like this was also speaking for me. So I was like, hey, I want to tell them some more. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's why I was making those comments, because I knew there was more. Like when I would read, I was like, I know that there's still some more that if I was, you know what I'm saying, the one in your position, I would have to say, if I was being 100%. So with this one, right, you went through a situation, there was a loss, and there was a lot of pain involved.
Yeah.
You called this, you lost your best friend, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. So you lost your best friend and there was pain involved. Let's talk on how you usually would have dealt with that. Like,
Okay.
instead of taking this approach that you chose, that we'll get into after, how would you usually deal with such a situation of a tough loss, or, something that brings you a lot of emotional pain?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, like, if I take an L, like, I just cut my ties, keep it moving, like, suppress it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to dig up some dirt real quick. I remember, what was this? This is like 10th grade, right?
Yeah.
So this girl I've been trying to talk to for like a couple months. Finally got her number, right?
Yeah.
I think this is the second time we're on the phone talking. She was like a year and some change older than me. And her and her friend were just like making fun of me because I was a little younger. And then, I was trying to be bold and in my I got in my feelings a little bit. And then I forgot what happened. And then she was like, delete my number or whatever.
Oof. You wanted out.
Yeah, bro. I was like, all right. I remember I called Danny. I'm about to call him out. I mean, after that, in that situation, back in that era, like, if someone would have said that, automatically I would have just cut him off.
Okay.
But because, like, I had put in so much effort and I was like, I don't want to just, like, throw all this work away.
Mm-hmm.
What should I do? And in my heart, I was like, nah, I got to cut her off. But I called Danny and he was like, yo, I was like, bro, what should I do? And he was like, yo, nah, delete her number. What you mean? So, I mean, that's just an example of how I've dealt with situations in the past. Like I deleted her number and I never spoke to her again. Like
to this day.
To this day, like, I don't even remember her name.
Wow. What a dog.
Yeah, like, that's how I would have dealt with the situation. Like, I've been right and wrong in different situations, but regardless of what it was, whether it was my fault or it wasn't, I just move on and just keep it moving. But for this situation, I was like, kind of evaluating myself across the pillars. I was like, okay, I'm emotionally not where I want to be, right? So instead of just suppressing this and moving on like I would in most situations, let me actually deal with this and learn from it. Kind of like Inky Johnson said, like, pain can be your teacher. So I was like, all right, I'm going to actually fill this out, go through this experience, and learn from it, because the next time I want to be better.
Okay, that's good. That's good, man. That's good.
Yeah.
Because as you said, if you didn't deal with it, you would have been a Category 5 baggage claim holder. And I don't know, man, but that sounds dangerous. That sounds dangerous. Oof.
Yeah.
So let's get into, a breakdown, because you did a breakdown of your process, right?
Yeah.
So the first one was that you get no post-game interview after you take a loss.
Yeah.
Remember that, people. No mics, no cameras, nothing. What do you mean by that?
Basically what I'm saying is like especially when it's out of a relationship, usually you want to, like, I even found myself, I'm like, all right, I came to this understanding that, okay, I need to be better emotionally, right? So let me go to the people who know me.
Yeah.
Right? Let me go to the people who know me. And that person happened to be one of the people who knew me, right? So I'm like, all right, help me out with this. Yeah. Like, help me figure this emotional being that I'm trying to be out, right? And it's just like
easy.
Yeah. I want to take the easy road.
Yeah.
Just like, help me figure it out and whatever. But ultimately I had to realize, like, yo, Nate, this is something you have to do for yourself. Like, no one can help you with this. And it's not fair to put it on another person to help you with that, because that's also causing pain for the other person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To tap into it and explain to you, like, okay, this is why you're somewhat trash emotionally. Like, right?
Wow.
So, I mean, I'm just going to go to extreme, but.
Yeah, hey, that's good, though.
But, yeah, so, I mean, that's why I kind of came with the no post-game interview, you know. You're not going to have the opportunity to go back and ask, like, okay, how can I be better? You're going to have to sit with yourself and figure it out yourself. And that's what kind of going through my entire life story did for me. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like my own personal interview.
Man, that's deep.
It's
because that's the crazy part about it, right? Especially with losses that you didn't take single-handedly. You feel me?
Yeah.
It's like if you did something or something that was done as a group or a collective or as a couple or whatever, when you take those losses, the fact that everybody has to go their separate ways and deal with it on their own, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, it's a hard truth to accept at first, you feel me?
For sure.
Because it's like, hey, we both took the L, so let's help each other out. Like, what you mean? You feel me? But, hey, that's life, though, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, sometimes you got to go back, double, piece the game up alone. Yeah. You feel me? Even though the loss was taken together as a team.
For sure.
So with that, right, having to accept the fact that I can't go to nobody else for some help, you know, I have to do this on my own. Did that start to manifest a sort of pain, or was that like a regression of pain? Like when you tapped into the fact that, you know, I want to be better. All right, so first you want to be better, right? Mm-hmm. Then it's like, what do I want to be better at? Yeah. Then it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do to start off that process, which is review myself. Yeah. When you started reviewing yourself, were you feeling pain, or was it like a pain regression? Was it pain starting to, like, you know, slowly dissolve?
Nah, it got worse before it got better.
So it got worse once you started the process?
Yeah, because it was the beginning of it was just kind of knowing that, like, okay, yeah, I got to address this. Mm-hmm. But then the actual process of understanding it, that was definitely more painful than actually knowing. Okay. Yeah. So the process itself of going through it was definitely more painful than just the initial understanding. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And it was another thing too, just before we move on to the next one. There was something that you said about you can't go to the people involved and ask them, you feel me, like what's going on. But to kind of tie this with let's say basketball, right? Or just in life in general, but I'm going to use basketball. I realized, like, over the years that if you're, like, attentive, people would tell you what you're messing up on. You feel me? Yeah. People would tell you. Like, if you're playing on a 5-man team and you're not passing the ball, when someone calls timeout, they be like, hey, bro, pass the ball a little bit more. Yeah. Like, it might not be aggressive. Like, people are not holding a knife to your neck, like, pass the ball. You feel me? But they're giving you cues like, oh, maybe I'm playing a little selfish. You feel me? Definitely. So, like, throughout the loss that motivated this article, when you first started to look at your post-game review by yourself, did you notice that, oh, man, there were some times where I was told to throw an assist and I didn't? Or there were some times, like, you know, where these issues came up, but I kind of was blind to them. Like, did you see that willful blindness, excuse me?
Definitely. Like, going back, I was like, wow, like, kind of the basketball reference, you know. Someone was wide open, and I was guarded by 3 people, and I took the shot. You know what I mean? Like, it was definitely going through that process gave me some clarity on, like, wow, the signs were there. Mm-hmm. Like, people, like you mentioned, like, people kind of hint at things, like, you need to address this. Mm-hmm. But I was so blind to it that it's like, nah, like, I'm going to shoot this shot. I got 3 people on me. I'm still going to shoot the 3. You know, like, I'm Steph Curry.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? So, no, that definitely did. It was a lot of hindsight, you know, like understanding of, okay, wow. Like, how did I not see that? Yeah. And that's the funny thing, I kind of addressed that later on in the article, but I mean, we're kind of talking about it now. And that's where also some of the pain comes from.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
You feel like, wow, this person was clearly open right here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pass the ball, so we lost the game.
Right.
And now you feel like regret for not doing better the first time.
Yeah.
And I kind of talk about it how, you feel indebted.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But, what I've come to realize is some debts you can't pay back.
Yeah. You gotta pay it forward.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes you might want to double back around the world 2 times to pay certain debts back, but sometimes you can't. That's the thing. And I feel like even like touching the topic of feeling indebted to others,
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy how sometimes some things happen for our growth, or generally like it comes from a given place from another, but you might still feel indebted to them. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't it's hard to accept something for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
At certain times when you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. You feel me? Like, dang, like it is what it is. Like I was shitty. Excuse me. I was terrible. I was trash. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to just sit there and come to that conclusion. Sometimes you just want to like pay it back because you feel like once you're able to clear up your name, that piece of you being trash kind of goes away. It's kind of it's a crazy way to look at it.
Yeah.
But you feel like you're kind of erasing that if you're able to get a chance to double back.
Exactly.
You feel me? Pay back your dues for real.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of what I talked about is, I'm a fan of the comeback story. Like,
definitely.
You fall, like Cardi B said, fall 9 times, but I get up 10. You feel me?
Cardi.
Shout out to Cardi. But what was I saying? Yeah,
comeback story.
I'm a fan of the comeback story, and that's what I want to do. Like, okay, like you said, erase that blemish off my record. Like, right. I took an L, but I came back, so
that L don't count.
Yeah, that L don't count no more.
Discredit the L. Yeah, that's what we're gonna call it.
Exactly.
Like to discredit the L's that we take.
Exactly. But I mean, I've now come to the acceptance that okay, I got an L on my record, but the marathon continues.
Definitely.
Shout out to Nipsey.
Indeed. Sponsor us. So after you had your post-game, you've accepted your no post-game interview and you gave one to yourself. I see the next thing that you did was you went to rehab. How was it when you first went to check in? You wrote your name on that sheet, like I'm signing up to put myself in rehab. Like how was that day for you?
Honestly, a lot of the rehabilitation reminders, that's what I call them. A lot of these came through. A lot of these I found out, or I got clarity on them later on in the process, like in that time that I was writing it. Okay. And that's why I'm grateful I did decide to write this article, because I was able to kind of synthesize all the thoughts in my head and really take away some key lessons that I can use moving forward. But the first rehabilitation reminder was perspective. And basically I was talking about just how sometimes we get so caught up in or at least for myself, I get so caught up in my own perspective that I forget to see the other perspective. Kind of piggybacking from earlier how I mentioned when I first decided I want to go through this process, right? I was like, okay, help me.
Yeah.
Help me.
Yeah. Man, that sounds selfish. Right
help
now,
me, right?
Just hearing it.
Help me. But I didn't see the other perspective, like me wanting help may be hurting the other person.
Yeah.
So that was the first one.
I have something to say on that. Just me personally, I know like in my younger days when I would ask for help from certain people, like I'm saying where it be like women I dealt with or people who I probably rubbed the wrong way or something, I kind of felt entitled to their help in a certain sense, if I'm being honest. So like when I would reach out like, hey, I know they ain't work out. Well, I don't even think I was doing that. But when I had that thought in my mind, like, man, I could just ask him, like, man, like, what was my wrong? What was my faults? I kind of felt like you had to tell me, you know what I'm
For
saying?
sure.
And that was one thing that, like, I learned when I got older is, like, people don't really owe you that. Even though you guys were so close, you know what I'm saying, dream team, like, they still don't owe you that come on. They don't owe you that
explanation.
Deed. Yeah, that deed, explanation, whatever.
Yeah, and like I kind of mentioned, we think we're owed it because our intentions are right. Like,
yeah, because we know we're using it to better ourselves.
Exactly.
So why would you want to help me
right?
get better me? What's wrong with you?
But despite the good intentions, like I said, it can cause harm or to the other person. You gotta see the other perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was one of the things I really learned from this whole situation.
Definitely. So the next rehab reminder that you have: time is your friend, not your enemy. So a couple months ago, right? Let's say you said this was about a 7-8 month process.
Yep.
So if this was 7 months ago, that would be in
January.
You sure? It's
yeah.
August.
7-8 months. But this came out in July.
All right, you're right. Oh yeah, you're right. So if it was January, and you wanted to approach this level of vulnerability in an article, do you think you'd have been able to do it?
Zero chance.
Zero chance.
Zero chance in terms of being this vulnerable, or even I hadn't learned everything.
So were you as vulnerable as a person?
No.
Not at all.
No.
So this article a couple months ago, when that had happened, when the initial laws happened.
No.
And why is that?
Just because, like, with time, the emotions start to settle, and your reasoning starts to kick in, right? It's just like with an argument with someone. In the heat of the moment, like, emotions are high.
Yeah.
You guys are fighting or whatever. But, you cool off. You go in each of your corners, get a little breather, and then you can come to the table and say, okay, like, why were you even fighting? Like, that was dumb. Like, it wasn't that serious or whatever.
That's true.
So that's just life in general. In the heat of the moment, emotions are high. Eventually, they settle down, and your reasoning has a chance to emerge. So for me, because I hadn't really dealt with my emotions, it took this long for my reasoning to finally emerge out of those emotions.
Okay. And so by emotions and reasoning, right?
Yeah.
The reason aspect of that, is that the reasons behind why you felt a certain type of way? Or like, what would you say? Like, what do you mean by reasonings?
Reasoning in terms of why I felt a certain way.
Or like, why also, you had an emotion?
Yeah, or just what I was just dealing with just in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So the next rehab reminder is that you get two options. You either fold or become a diamond. So which one did you choose to do? Did you clearly fold?
I mean, I would like to say, I chose the diamond route.
You underwent the pressure.
Yeah.
The pressure of the process.
Yeah, and basically what I meant was that, life is hard. Like, we face down times, whether it's, something like that I face, whether it's death of a family member, anything like life happens, your mom can get sick. Anything can happen, right, in life.
Unpredictable.
But, life is unpredictable. But the greats, they go through those situations. They face them. They don't avoid them. They face them, of course. But they don't let that break them. Like one of the things I mentioned, Jordan, he had the flu game. Game 5, and he still came out. He had the flu, came out and dropped 38 points.
Yeah.
30.
People can't do that when they fully healthy.
Right. So, come on, man. So be like be like Jordan. You know, even in your flu season of life, drop 38 points.
Indeed, man. Don't forget that, y'all. Make sure that you still handling yours, regardless of what's going on.
Facts.
That's the good thing about going through trials and tribulations of life. It exposes you to who you really are.
Yeah.
You know, because everyone could be like, "Ooh, I'm a strong person," but if you've never been called to be strong in the midst of something where it makes sense to be weak, you never really know how strong you are.
For sure.
That's good, though. That's good. So you went through that process. You was able to weather the storm, dealt with the pain and everything of that, and you still were able to keep on your job. So I salute you for that. Man. And now
we're going a little deeper.
Let's get into a little deeper into, this topic at hand. This was actually the final chapter of the article. And it just has a very, self-explanatory title. Exposed. Yeah, I said it. You were exposed, man.
Yep.
You were exposed. So were you exposed to, let's start off, were you exposed to yourself or were you exposed to others?
I was exposed to myself, like, who I really was as a person. Like, I had a perception of who I was, and that was more rooted in who I wanted to be. But in reality, like, when I actually said, okay, Nathan, this is actually who you are, like, there was a huge gap between where I wanted to be and where I was.
Sheesh. And did you really sit down and think? I know you did, but just to come to that understanding that even though this was like the emotional pillar of your life that led to you coming to this process of self-improvement, like what's the word I'm looking for? Active self-improvement. That realization that other aspects of your life also were lacking. Like, how did you tie all that together? Like,
in what way?
That was a bad question. Let me start over. I'm trying to piece the words together perfectly. All right, so it says that basically there's different ways that people get exposed in life, right? In life, we're going to go through things where we're going to be exposed to who we are. You might say a nice person, but so your life is going to present you with many opportunities to prove that you're a kind person.
Okay.
And you might fail. And then you're like, ooh, I'm not as kind as I thought. You know what I'm saying? Vice versa. So with you said that you were going to be a great boyfriend.
Yeah.
You got exposed. That, you know what? I did the good parts, you feel me? I ain't cheat. I wasn't abusive. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But I didn't really meet the key components of what it meant to be a great boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
And through that, you got exposed to your true self, which was other aspects of just who you are, not just emotionally.
Yeah, no.
Like, how did you feel once you were seeing that, like, wow, I suck here, but this is transcending here too, you know? Like, even though, like, in the beginning, you talked about having to realize that life was pieced together, but, like, when you actually was like, wow, like, I was exposed, how did that feel?
It was tough. Just as someone who's kind of prideful, you know, my ego it was a gut check to my ego. Like, damn, you're not as great as you think you are.
Yeah.
And especially like in an area like that, you know what I mean? And kind of where society is, it kind of teaches you that, you know, like I mentioned in the article, you know, I got ambition, goals, you know what I mean?
I was popping.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm fit.
I got a six-pack.
I'm fit, got a little six-pack. You know, I have a pretty good personality, I would say. So, I mean, what else could someone want, right? And that's usually what's on Front Street.
Yeah, definitely.
But eventually, like, after the first, just even with, like, relationships, like, when you meet someone, you start building a relationship. It's those first few conversations are easy because, you know, you're just talking about basic stuff.
Yeah, y'all talking about the good stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't really put the negative on Front Street when you just meet someone.
Yeah, but, like, what's going to take that person from just, like, an acquaintance to a friend or to your best friend? Like you actually have to, expose yourself to that person. And and you have to have that emotional maturity. And just be able to share different aspects of who you are with that person. And I was, like I mentioned, I had the surface level stuff, the ambition, the goals, health.
Things that they look for on the surface level.
Exactly. It's like, all right, these boxes are checked. But you don't really know how emotionally mature someone is till you actually get to know them at a deeper level.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah,
that's true. So with realizing that you were emotionally immature, right?
Yeah.
It was something that I remember I spoke to you actually earlier today about with my therapist when they made the So there's a quote, right? There's a quote in this article.
I don't know.
There's a quote.
What is it about?
Michael's quote about the loneliness to life.
Oh no, it's not in this.
All right,
yeah,
so
go ahead.
there's a guy, right, and he made a statement, and he basically said that there's a loneliness to life, and that loneliness comes from the fact that regardless how well you get to know someone, no one will ever 100% know you. So I actually saw my therapist today, and I brought that quote up to him as we were speaking or whatever, and he made the comment that, is it that no one is going to 100% know you, or most people choose to not show 100% of who they are? Because there's either two points to that. We're either never going to 100% be able to express ourselves because we're never going to 100% know ourselves. Or the second part is we choose not to. You feel me? Because we're always discovering ourselves and things of that sort. So you can never be like, oh, this is me. I'm done. This is all you're going to get. Because tomorrow you might change. You feel me? And so, like, just with that.
Hold on. Before you switch subject, go more in depth about what you had talked about, like the two spectrums.
What two spectrums?
That your therapist told you about? That you were telling me earlier?
I forgot. Give me some detail. My mind is all over the place all the time.
So you said you can either...
Oh, okay. Wait, which one? Wait, go ahead.
Share with the person? I can't remember exactly.
Share.
Like if you're...
Oh, okay, yeah. So this actually some, because saying me and my therapist, we speak on like vulnerability and being more emotionally available and things of that sort, because I struggle with that. And so there was something that we were talking about, which was, we were speaking of power. It was a tug of war of power. And I was telling him, I was like, with me personally, I refrain from getting too close to people, because once I feel like you have a certain level of knowledge, or you feel me, I've given up myself to a certain point for the other person, I don't really know what they're gonna do with them because of that trust issue. You feel me?
For sure.
It's like, I don't want someone to be out here knowing every dark secret of mine, and they use that and like diminish me one day because we fall out or something. You feel me? But he made a statement, a rebuttal to that, and he said, you know what? He said, damn, that is that's what it means to connect to people. To connect to people is to accept the fact that you're both going to give up your power, because that's what leads to having love between people. You have to give up your power in terms of expressing who you are to each other. You're going to reveal your dark secrets to each other. That 50-50 relationship is going to be there. And the good thing about that power is, once you guys realize you both gave up your power, it's like, damn, I could destroy this person if I want to. But they could destroy me too. So it's like, you know what? Let's find a way to make it work. If it's going to be a friendship, a monogamous relationship, polygamy, if that's what you into, whatever. But, you know what I'm saying? In that relation, it's like, you know what? We could be really bad to each other. So because we can be so bad to each other, let's actually be good to each other. You feel me? And there's that tug of war there. So, that's pretty interesting, just to let y'all know about that.
Yeah, appreciate that.
No problem. Shout outs to Mr. Defoe. But yeah, so it was let's get back into the article actually, because we're almost done. So you got exposed, right? And during your exposition, your exposed state, you had the quote from Wale, which says that every man it's more insecure that they would admit. Did this being exposed you to insecurities that you had that you were unaware of?
Definitely. And I mean, the first one was really, me realizing that the issue was me, right? That, and what I mean by that, the first aspect of that was not showing myself, affection, or not even necessarily showing myself affection, but the lack of self-love. Because I realized that, how you treat people isn't a reflection of them, it's a reflection of you.
That's facts.
Right? So, and sometimes I let my ambition get the best of me, where I'm so focused on getting to a certain spot that I don't realize or sit back and enjoy where I am currently. And when you dig deeper and like uncover that, that's really rooted in the idea that you're not enough.
Yeah. You're never good enough.
Exactly. Like, I'm not good enough till I get to this spot right here. And then, unfortunately, what usually happens once you get to that spot, it moves a little bit.
Like, oh, man.
Got to be quicker than that.
You feel me? Definitely.
So, I mean, coming to the understanding that, how I treat people is really a reflection of me, and that I have to, take myself out on dates, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes, yeah, just do little things to take care of myself. I think now that I recognize that and have the ability to take care of myself, I'm in a better position to reciprocate that energy to someone else.
Because you know what it looks like.
Exactly.
So you know how to give it. Yeah.
Because, like,
that's real.
You know what I mean? Like, if you don't take yourself on dates, right? Initially you're gonna want to take somebody on dates, but eventually you're like, yeah, but eventually, like, if that's not who you are,
it'll show.
Yeah, it will show. So
yeah, that's true. And that's really what you really said that stood out to me was the fact that you can't give to people things you don't give to yourself.
Yeah,
like people's ability to express love, it really does correlate to their ability to express love to themselves. Because if I feel like I only need McDonald's to be happy, it's like
you only need McDonald's.
You hear me? It's like you trying to tell me you need more, and it's like, why you need a steak? You better get this 5-piece. Like, it really does.
Can I at least get an apple pie?
It does translate. You feel me? So yeah, people, make sure y'all up in that self-love every day, because you know what I'm saying, it really does show. It transcends to other parts of you in other relationships and such.
Yeah. And then, like, the second part of that is my fear of other people's opinions. And really what that was rooted in is my desire to control everything. Like, because kind of how you talked about power, right?
Yeah.
Being in, let's say, a friendship or a relationship with someone, they're now also a reflection of you, right?
Yeah, that's true. Big
and right, so knowing that someone has that power, I ain't gonna lie, that's scary to me.
Yeah,
right?
That's scary, I admit, because they could ruin you, whatever you built reputation wise.
Exactly.
Diminish that.
Exactly. Just think about it, like, if you're, let's say, Kevin Hart, right?
Yeah.
He cheated on his wife. That didn't only affect Kevin Hart. Like, his wife had to go through stuff. Like, people were talking about, oh, you stole.
Yeah,
his old ex-wife's man, like, going crazy, right?
You deserve
it. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's crazy. So knowing that someone has that power over me has always been something that was scary to me. And I finally realized, okay, Nathan, you can't control everything. Like, you're going to have to give up some of your power. You're going to have to be vulnerable. You're going to have to accept that you can't control everything. And that's the way the chips fall. And you guys got to accept that.
So that acceptance that, you know what, I have to give up my power. Like we said, the power struggle, right?
Yeah.
And meet that middle ground. Like, I have to give up my power and hope the other person does right by me. You
Mm-hmm.
feel me? Is that something that you were able to apply to other aspects of your life, especially in business? Now that you're in business.
Yeah, yo, it's crazy that you brought that up because now right now I'm in a business agreement, right? That initially we hadn't had the contract. So let me take a step back, right?
Mm.
I don't even know if it even makes sense to go into this tangent hole, but I'm just gonna kind of give an overview.
Yeah.
So me and a person, we're working on a project together,
Mm-hmm.
right? And initially, like we didn't have the contract signed,
Okay.
and but I was still doing the work,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just based on like trust that I know at some point we're gonna sign the contract and this is gonna be come you're not gonna turn around and do me dirty.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like I've definitely seen it change how I even move in business. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I of course want to sign the contract. Like I don't want to get worked. I'm not naive now all of a sudden, but I move in a way where it's like, okay, I'm leading with trust,
Mm-hmm.
and like if you do me dirty or whatever, it's cool. I just keep it moving, but I'm gonna at least lead with trust.
Okay. Yeah. I salute that. 'Cause that's very hard to do, to give the trust first and get to a place with yourself where you're so good with yourself that they could take that trust, slap you in the face with it, and you could get back up and keep moving. You don't you're not about to seek vengeance or anything of that sort. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really like that. And the fact that what you said was that like I'm not. That doesn't mean I'm dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like even though like I'm trusting you up front, it doesn't mean I'm naive to what could happen. And I think that's really cool. Like to still have that conversation with yourself. Like, look, all right, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put the trust out there. These are the possible outcomes that could happen, positive and negative.
yeah,
But let's hope for the best. I salute that. That's really something that I've been trying to apply to myself also, and it's hard, but it's a process to everything. So let's get down to post exposedness. One thing that you speak on is escapism.
yep.
So what was your escapism like during this process? Because that's 8 months worth. I know you've had all types of battles with escapism. Because we all escape every day, man. That Netflix show you watching tonight, yeah, you escaping. You got some things to deal with.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, it was a mix of things. I mean, TV, going out,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, other women,
See,
and that was,
that
I
was
would
the
say
worst
that
one.
was more so in the beginning phase, but definitely as time progressed, it was more so like TV and going out and just finding ways to distract myself.
To distract yourself.
Yeah.
So when you were distracting yourself, right? When you were distracting yourself, what was it that made you tap into a distraction? So like let's say you were going about your day, you were doing whatever, and you're done your work, you've accomplished what you set out to do, your to-do list is done, right?
Yep.
Do you just go straight into distraction mode, or were your distractions triggered? Like, man, I don't feel good, I want to go out now, or
Nah. So usually with like TV or like Netflix, right?
mm-hmm.
Let's say I come home from work, I eat, I'm chilling, just vibing out, and then like some thoughts come in my head about whatever. I'm like, I don't want to think about this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me watch some TV so I don't have to think about it. Something to distract these thoughts from being at the top of my mind.
So it was like a tool for suppression.
Exactly.
Okay. And so how did you deal with that escapism? So once you like decided, like, you know what, I don't want to escape from this. I told myself I'm gonna deal with these emotions. I'm gonna deal with the loss and the pain. How did you battle escapism? Because that's probably one of the hardest things to do, is to choose to sit with things. Like, I'm gonna sit with this anger. I'm gonna sit with this loss instead of I'm gonna act like it didn't happen or just distract myself. Like, how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I think now I'm more conscious of it.
Mm-hmm.
So probably early on in the process, I could sense it and just go to Netflix. But I didn't. It wasn't like a conscious decision. Like, let me go watch Netflix. But then I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this type of way, and then I'd still go watch Netflix. But now I'm in a position where I'm like, okay, I now understand the thoughts that are going through my head.
Mm-hmm.
Let me sift through them, figure it out. Like, what am I feeling right now? And just be with myself and be with my thoughts for a bit. And then once I'm over it, and that's the thing, usually when you actually take the time to kind of go through your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it could be just 5 or maybe 10 minutes where you're like, okay, I understand that. That's what I'm feeling. And then you just move on with your day.
That's crazy. Nah, I'm sorry. The only reason why I made that comment of that being crazy is that I'm just like thinking to myself, like certain thoughts that I escape from. If I knew it took me 10 minutes to get over it instead of 4 hours on Netflix, I probably would have chose the thought. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I experienced the same thing though. I feel that.
But I mean, I will say it's not always a 10-minute thing. Like it may take 10 minutes for that feeling to be for that feeling to stop being top of mind.
Oh, okay. But it's still there.
Yeah, you may not have, I'm not going to say you fully healed in those 10 minutes. But
you don't feel it strongly, you say?
Potentially, for the most part, yes. But it's more so about really addressing what you're feeling.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah. So just admitting that it's there.
Yeah, admitting
like,
that it's there.
I'm angry today.
Why am I angry?
Yeah, why am I angry? Yeah. What made me angry? And accepting it that, like, yes, it's anger.
Because, like, if you don't, you may walk around angry. Like you kind of mentioned earlier. You had a bad day at work and you come
carry that baggage.
Yeah, carry that baggage, and now you're yelling at your husband or your kids or your wife or whatever, right? Yeah. So when you address it and you try to understand it, you can move on from it.
Facts. So let's go to the next step as you were, you know what I'm saying, in your final levels of this ongoing process, which, you know what I'm saying, still is going on today, was that you had to learn to forgive yourself. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. Because you even stated that your growth came with a guilty conscience.
Yep.
How did you transform that to forgiveness? Guilt to forgiveness.
I mean, honestly, it was tough, right? Because, you know, like we mentioned earlier, I want to repay that debt.
Yeah. But
just finally accepting that, you know, not all debts can be repaid. And when you even, just kind of even with life, right? But I think this is the hardest thing. When, I think I actually mentioned this in the draft day, but it's easier to not want to, if someone randomly gives you, let's say $1, right?
Yeah.
Or $10, and you know you can't repay that person, it's okay. You can move throughout life and like, oh, I was blessed with this $10.
Yeah.
And be good with it.
That's true.
But when you know the person you feel indebted to, it's a different feeling. Like, instead of just moving through life and like, okay, I was blessed with this $10. Nah, I gotta go pay that person back. Instead of, in this first situation, you may pay it forward, but in that second situation where you know exactly who gave it to you,
you want to pay it back.
Yeah, you want to pay it back. You don't want to pay it forward.
That's something, right? Because when you were just speaking on that, there's a thought that went through my mind, and basically, when you said that, when you know the person who kind of you're indebted to on like a deeper level, you want to go directly to them and pay it back, right? So before you actually forgave yourself and you were going through the guilty conscious stage, Did you want to go back and pay the debt because you know you can now?
Yeah, that
That's
was
what it is.
definitely.
Because you knew, like, now I could come and
Yeah.
I could do it right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Same here. My mother. But yeah, so how did you end up on the other end of the spectrum, which was forgiveness? Like, what was that process like?
What was that process? Just accept. It was just more so accepting, and once I accepted it, I forgave myself. Like, okay, Nate, this is not a debt you can pay back.
So like, this L was on my record.
Yeah, this
It's
L
there.
is.
It's not going nowhere.
It's not going nowhere. All you can do is keep it moving, and just learn from this, grow from this. So for the next time around, you know, you're in a better spot.
That's good. That's good, man. And the final reminder was keep the pictures and get rid of the baggage. Whew. And I like that whole approach to it. That was really slick, right? In terms of using pictures more as lessons than actual pictures, because you know people will hold on to things like memorabilia or whatever,
Yeah.
or what have you. But you actually were able to transform that into a positive. Like, you want to get a little bit more in depth on that?
Yeah, for sure. Like, think about it. If you went on a vacation, to show people like how the vacation went, you don't bring your luggage and show like this is a bathing suit I wore, like this is the pants I wore, and all that,
Sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, you just show them the picture, and that's the same thing with relationships. You know what I mean? Like when a vacation ends or when a relationship ends, you don't take the baggage to show people. You show them a picture like this is what I've learned, this is what I've grown, and
that's how this relationship helped me.
yeah, exactly. And you just kind of keep it moving because, like I said, baggage is heavy.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be carrying that around.
And how about the reminiscent aspect? When you said that you had to come to the realization that just because you reminisce about something doesn't mean you want to go back to that time period.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Nah,
Like,
for sure. Like, because I kind of mentioned it in college, right?
mm-hmm.
Like, now that I graduate from school, like, me and my friends, we'll reminisce on college all the time. Like, dang, remember this, remember that, et cetera, et cetera. But I do not want to go back to the school. Like, no matter how much I enjoy school, and, like, that was a great chapter of my life, like, I'm past that. Like, and that's just the same thing with people, friends, like anything. Some things are great. Some things are for a certain stage, and it's unfortunate, but you know, just got to keep it moving.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it's okay to reminisce. But one thing I will say: don't dwell. Right? Like you don't want to dwell on it. Like, dang, I want to go back to school. Dang, I want to go back.
Bad.
Yeah,
So freaking bad.
Yeah. It's a difference between reminiscing and dwelling.
That's true.
Because dwelling is not healthy.
Yeah. So reminiscing is more of just remembering the good, and appreciating the good.
Exactly. Appreciating
but
for
also
what it was.
accepting it, like with the last part, like it's final.
Yeah.
Like, it's done with. Those times are done. But it was still cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was good.
That's neat, man. Because I know, this is just a side question, but in the early stages of reminiscing, right, pre being exposed, compared to after being exposed reminiscing, in the early stages, did you feel weak? That you like still thought of that? Did you feel like that was like, oh man, I'm a weak guy, like I'm a sucker?
For sure.
You did?
Yeah.
And how about pre being exposed? How did you feel when you reminisce? I mean, well, yeah, you kind of said it. Like you appreciate it and it was good. But
I mean, I just realized that, you know, that's just life. You know what I mean? And that's why I kind of brought the college example, because it gives us a non kind of sensitive example of what reminiscing looks like in just everyday life.
Cool. So, guys, for all of you who made it through, we are finally at the end, man. And yeah, let's wrap it up. Got things to do. So it says here, good little quote: being the right person is more important than finding the right person. And that you know what I'm saying, entails everything. So your main goal, well, one of your goals was to become more vulnerable, right?
Yep.
And you had to take a loss and experience some pain, which started that process for you to, you know, go on a journey to discover yourself on the emotional state and to, you know, heighten your level of vulnerability and ability to feel. So where you are right now in your journey, how important is it for you to be vulnerable now going forward?
I mean, it's definitely critical. Something I definitely want to practice, like, actively, and just be aware of, like, okay. And it's something I'm more aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more aware now. Like, I think I tweeted the other day, like, I want to be able to say I love you first to people, right?
Yeah.
Like, the only person I really even do it, and it rarely happens, is my mom. Like,
because I moms.
Right? You know, because I know, like, when we end the conversation, I already know she's gonna say I love you. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I can just beat her to it. It's cool. Like, I may get extra points. You know what I'm saying? Like, extra 2 points for Nate, right?
Yeah.
So since I already know it's coming, I'm comfortable saying it before because I know she's gonna say it anyways. But in other situations, whether that be with my siblings or even whatever, right? I'm not that comfortable saying it first. Like, I'm more of a I love you too.
You're more on the reciprocating end.
Yeah, I'm more on the reciprocating end than the starter, right? Yeah. And that's something I'm working on, but I think I'm more aware of where I'm not vulnerable in life and just actively trying to be better at it versus before, like, just not knowing even where to start or how to even approach it.
That's good. So throughout this process, you were able to train yourself to increase your emotional capacity.
Correct.
And through everything that you went through, the trials and tribulations, the difficulties and things that happened outside of that, was it worth it?
Yeah, for sure, man. I feel like I'm in a better place just even on, like, a human level, right? Like, I feel like I can connect with people a lot better. And like you mentioned, it doesn't only affect the emotional aspect, the emotional pillar. It also affects the other, 4 pillars. So I just feel all over just in a better space.
Indeed, man. I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you're actually on the journey to becoming the real Nate Pero, as you said here.
Self-love Pero. Self-love Pero.
New alias. But yeah, guys, we thank y'all for listening and being with us. We just some closing comments. Shout out to my boy Della. He has a quote which he stated in one of his podcasts. You guys should check that out. And he said that if you stick around long enough, life will give you another shot. So, whatever y'all going through or whatever journeys you guys feel inspired to start off of listening to this, just remember, just stick to it and just keep it moving. Stay focused, stay forward. And eventually, if you stick around long enough, life will give you another chance to prove yourself. Thank y'all for listening. Capo out.
Self-love Pero is out, man. Hey, actually, I'm not out. You know what I'm saying? I may be back.
All right, man. We going.
More heat coming.
Deuces.